Okay. All right. Yay, we're live on the air. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi, Prana Boosters. Welcome to our show today. I'm so excited to have with me two amazing featured guest Prana Boosters who are joining me in a conversation about mindful parenting. First, we have Heather of wiseinside.com and author of this book, How to Raise a Happy Child and Be Happy Too. Yay! Hi, Heather.
Hi. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And we also have Eric of oneawesomedad.com, who is a wonderful, amazing, positive light in this world of positive parenting and a parenting coach. Hi, Eric.
Hi there. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, it's a pleasure. So I'm so happy that you guys could join me today to have this conversation. I wrote a little something. I'm just going to read it out loud really quick. But I'm really excited to come together to share our thoughts and experiences with each other. I'm really grateful that you guys could share this space with me. And I believe that our mutual intention is to have these conversations so that other people could hear them. And if we do them publicly, they can, listen in and get some ideas, and maybe we can spark a thought or an idea of what people would like to do in their own families, for parenting. And as you guys know, it's a little bit of a lonely road because these parenting styles are really new ways of parenting and raising our kids, and sometimes not completely socially acceptable, even though it's ironic to me because they're about love and kindness and gentleness and peace, so it doesn't seem like it would be not acceptable, but it's not. But this way people won't feel so alone maybe learning these things. So I think it's wonderful that we're having these together. And I just wanted to add a little tiny, not like legal disclaimer, like fine print, that I'm a huge advocate, as I know both of you are, for feeling our way through parenting and using our intuition to guide us. So we are not telling people what to do. We are simply inspiring them about what we do. We're telling them what we do and what's possible. So I love quotes, so I just wanted to start our conversation off with a quote, and I have one by the medium James von Prague, which says, "Love is the strongest force in the universe."
Yay.
So yay, thank you for being here. So let me get started, and then I'm going to let you guys, have your way. But I just wanted to tell everybody the topic for today is limiting electronics, toys, and playtime versus empowering and trusting and educating your child to decide their own limits. And obviously this is different for different age groups and things like that, but I wanted to get the discussion going. So maybe you guys want to introduce yourself, or Eric, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I brought up the topic in a Facebook group with all of us because it's an issue that I have been having struggles with myself, as far as how much TV time is appropriate for a 4-year-old. How do you set limits there? I feel like I've done a good job as a parent in a lot of areas, as far as discipline, as far as not punishing, not yelling, coming from a place of gentleness, being a positive parent, being conscious, mindful, all those things. But TV has been an area that's been tricky because kids like to watch TV, and they like to watch a lot of it. Um, and the parent has to be the one to set the limit, to say, okay, 3 hours of Thomas movies is enough. Let's go do something more interactive. So again, it's a topic that I have struggled with and wanted to put it out there with more like-minded, peaceful, mindful parents such as yourselves. So I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to be able to talk about it with both of you.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. Heather, do you want to give us a little background on you?
Well, I have been working with children for 25 years, over 30,000 kids, and over the years I've kind of found different strategies and tools that work really, really well, and for kids across the spectrum. So I had a preschool for years and a wellness center after that, and waited until later to actually have a child. And what I will say is that it is a different ball game being a parent, not harder or more challenging, but just a different ball game altogether. And so I too am in the space of I believe that the strategies that I lay out are amazing strategies, and I use those strategies with my son. The difference is now I actually bring baggage to the table where I didn't have baggage before with other people's children. So, I have guilt and shame and blame and all those things now wrapped up in it, when before it was just somebody else's kid that I was really concerned about and loved and wanted the best for, and really didn't have any baggage to bring to it. So that's been the difference for me. And also, I too am in the space where I have a 3-year-old, and he's one show, mama, one show. And so he has got, he knows the story now. And so I too am going through that space, but I've also learned a couple of little tricks and strategies along the way that have actually worked for him too. So I'm really excited to share that.
Awesome. I'm so glad you guys are here. I love to talk about this because I don't really have anyone else to talk about it with except my husband, per se, because we are together deciding it. The thing is that it really is feeling your way through it, because at every stage, even if we have tools and tips and techniques and things like that to do it, something's going to pop up where we're like, God, I don't know. I mean, how should I know? Like, half the time, you know what I say to my kids? I say, I don't know. Let's talk it through. Let's see how everyone feels. Or I say, maybe Siri knows.
Maybe Siri knows.
I don't know. Maybe Siri knows. It's really funny, too, if you ever talk on your phone. You're like, Siri, how long is too long for my kids to watch TV? So we try to lighten it up. That's the thing with the conversations that we have, these heavy conversations. I know there's a lot of people who are just really serious about it, and it comes from a place of fear, right? Because we love these children of ours. We're afraid that we're gonna, mess them up, so to speak. And there's so much information now. It's information overload as parents, and it's so challenging to try to figure out, well, which route do I go, right? So for us, we try to figure out, okay, well, not which route do we want to go, but how do we feel? How do I want to feel? How do I want the kids to feel? So for us, when they were little, because my girls are now 9 and 11, and the way that we've chosen to kind of incorporate electronics has been with empowering them about their bodies, mindfulness about how they feel about their bodies. But when they were little, we didn't do that. We didn't say, because, man, when they're little, they could watch probably 3 weeks of TV and not sleep or something. I don't know what they're capable of. They're very powerful, right? So of course, when they were little, we did have to instill some, limits and boundaries, but we explained them, we explained, and maybe after, first of all, let's start off with what we let them watch. I guess I should start there. Okay, you guys are taking me back to when they were younger, because you're younger, your kids are younger than mine. When they were younger, we were very mindful about what was on in the background. Let's just start with babies who aren't even watching TV, right? So we made a decision not to watch the news 12 years ago. There were so many other resources and ways that we could get news or understand what's happening in the world. We knew we didn't have to do it with the kids listening or hearing what was going on. We were mindful about what we were focusing on and where we were placing our energy. So, I think a lot of people now, the topic is, no screen time. Well, my husband and I would have failed at that because we have been in the computer business for almost 20 years. So we've been making video games and websites, and, he's an animator and a 3D artist. And, the bottom line is electronics are a big part of our world. I mean, even if I'm cooking dinner, I might want to check my bank account or something. Or I forgot to send an email, or I'm constantly using my electronics, right? So it would be kind of hypocritical of me to say, you know, you can't use it, but mommy can, and, you know, watch daddy's on it. You know, my kids see daddy's on his computer and or his laptop or his iPad, or so it gets to be the question of what type of media are they consuming, how long are they doing it for, right? And then how do they feel? So like when our kids were little, we really liked Baby Einstein. Sometimes I put it on now and they just giggle, and I'm like, I just remember the songs, I want to hear it. I don't know if you guys ever watched Baby Einstein or things like that, but you know, we were not watching even the Today Show, because I don't even watch that, but I'm saying, you know, I don't really know how people can watch it and not be mindful of the crawl at the bottom. Where even if they're talking about like school lunches or something really like high vibration and upbeat, the news is at the bottom saying, you know, really horrific information. So that brings an energy with it, right? That constant screaming. So it's what's on the screen, right? So we were very mindful. I mean, we don't watch commercials. What else? If my husband and I watch movies or things like that, we're both like with headphones on his iPad. You know, we're not watching it in front of the kids either. So let's just maybe talk a little bit about the type of media that they are consuming. Let me get your feelings on that, Eric.
Sure. So as far as types of media, you know, one great way to limit the amount of TV is to not own one. Right?
Well, that's true. That's true.
So that's actually what we did, is we got rid of our TV before our son was born. But that doesn't mean that we can get rid of our laptops and our tablets and computers either. I work as a website programmer, so I'm on the laptop a lot. And so you're right. You mentioned that it's sort of hypocritical to say, you know, don't get in front of a screen when dad's in front of the screen all day. That's tough.
But it's hard for them to understand. It's very confusing.
Right, it's confusing.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the TV goes, I really have objections to just the type of programming that's on. You know, the news is just constantly feeding negativity. There's the commercials. There are a lot of problems with it. And the thing is, all the studies show that television watching has some kind of negative behavioral and emotional effects on children, particularly children under 2 years old. So once you get past 2, the general idea is that you can start to introduce shows. So then the question there is, which shows do you start to introduce? How much time do you allow them to watch? And then, of course, you know, you want your kids to be able to make their own decisions too. So you don't want to be the dominant authority that that's always right. That's always the deciding factor in their lives. So it's a tough question, you know, and I think each parent has to make those decisions as to what's best for their own child in each given situation.
Right. Heather, I want to give you a chance to say something before we go further.
Well, you know, I'm in the space of, my company is Wise Inside, and so I believe that we all have a wisdom within us that we can tap into. And what I have to say in my situation is, you know, there are certainly a lot of cartoons and things that are socially acceptable, and supposedly just, you know, honest, good fun, right? Well, honest, good fun doesn't always feel good to me, and so I have to check in with myself first and foremost and say, you know, yes, The Incredibles is a great movie, right? Or Hotel Transylvania, or you know, even Despicable Me, right? Like, there's some cuteness, there's some funny, but is it age appropriate? Can my child actually differentiate when somebody is being burned on the TV that it's not real life? Or that if somebody is as simple as Madagascar 3, you know, she points a gun at the guy's face and shoots him and dies. Like and what I know for sure is that young, I'm not talking about older kids, they have a little bit more brain development than younger kids, but in the younger kids' world, they see that as real, and so they can't differentiate whether or not it's real or fake, or if they got hurt, and it's confusion for them. So movies that I thought, oh yeah, these will be fine, I'm like, oh my gosh, turn this off, like, so, and because I'm not happy with it, and so if I'm uncomfortable and I'm upset, it's going to translate bad across the board, and so, you know, the rule of thumb in our home is that, look, if there's any guns involved with somebody shooting another person, it's off the table. If there's people that are burning, it's off the table. If people are on a spit rotating under a fire, it's off the table. Like, so all of those things, you know, my husband and I had to come together on and say, okay, what are you willing to do? Because he's a little bit more flexible with it, but he also acknowledges my experience with children to know that, you know, and consequently, down the line, we don't have nightmares at night. We don't have, because all of this information gets ingested and then regurgitated in our dreams, in our fears, you know. So when my son sees a shadow on the wall, he doesn't automatically think it's the boogeyman coming to get him because he's seen that on a movie. He goes, shadow, quack, quack, like a duck, right? So that's the mentality I want to keep with him. And people will say, well, you're keeping him in a bubble. Well, you know, we only have a limited bubble time. I have control over this situation for a short amount of time, and it's an illusion that it's even in control, really. But, you know, I have this space and time right now where I can make the decision. So how I keep it open to him as a 3-year-old is I say, look, you can choose from watching Curious George, or you can watch Paw Patrol. Which one do you want? Curious George, Paw Patrol. I don't want either. No. Okay, then that tells me that you don't want the TV on. Got it. Let's go figure out something else to do. Oh, no. One show. Okay, then do you want Paw Patrol or do you want Curious George? Because I'm okay with both of those programs. Both of them feel good to me. You know, there's not a lot of stuff going on in them. So, you know, the only thing is Curious George has not promoted language development in my child. But that's okay. We'll deal with it. But it's really getting in tune with what feels good to me first and foremost before I can even set the stage for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. You know, it's funny, but it's taking me back, and I'm trying to remember when my oldest was 4. I was writing blogs about Disney movies because everybody was saying they're for kids, and, you know, people actually equate animated movie with childhood movie, with kid movie. And it's funny because I ended up writing about it saying, you know, just because somebody says it's, you know, kid rated doesn't mean it's like Balodi kid rated, like my child can see it or would want to see it. And the thing, so we've always chosen where we want to focus our energy, right? And I'm telling you, as having older kids, my kids are 9 and 11, they have never woken up with a nightmare. They do not wake up in the night and have nightmares. So I agree with you on that. I think that okay, so deciding limits is different than also helping be a filter, right? I think there's like 3 different conversations we can be having here. So it's, you know, there's the debate of should we allow screen time and what could be the benefits of it? Do we limit it or do we trust, you know, when do we trust our children? And what is appropriate when we do, and if we do choose to have any type of screen time? And so, you know, for us, like you were saying, those movies, and I want to tell you, my kids have seen a lot of those movies now that they're older. I thought that I was going to pass out when the movie Tangled came out, and I actually probably was the only one. I don't even know how to describe this. First of all, my kids are so sensitive. If we took them to the movies much older, but when they did, they went in our double stroller. And they both had earplugs, and they were older. They didn't need to be in a stroller, but they were in there because they wanted to have the cover on top that they could pull down or hide when they didn't want to see something or when they sensed there was something they didn't want to see. So backtrack to us giving them some skills, right? I mean, even if we took them now to a movie that they want to see or that they trust that they're making a decision with, There's earplugs involved, and we are probably the only ones. I don't know. I hope I'll find out after this. If anyone else does this, please write me. We don't watch the previews. Sometimes you take a child to, you know, like we run out. Like me and the girls sit outside, and maybe Alan's in there, and he, you know, watches it. And if I see one that it's a movie that they want to see or they feel it's appropriate, we run in. If not, we run out, because they show a lot of things that are like even adult themed. You know, coming attractions or previews for kids' movies. But let's just talk about the movie Tangled. So I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Tangled.
I have not seen it.
Okay, but just the concepts of most Disney movies, you know, and you say to yourself, really, what's the big deal, right? But when you watch it through the eyes of your child, or what your child might hear, learn, or understand, big thing in our family is using the mute button. Just mute it. Mute it. We don't want to hear that. That doesn't feel good to us. Hide, put a blanket over, like do stuff like that. Like, they've seen the movie Tangled, but they've never seen any of the negative parts of it. They will hide it. They will choose to hide because it doesn't feel good to them. I think what happens is some families, some kids get almost anesthetized. They get like numb to it, you know. The second you start seeing those scenes you started talking about, Heather, it doesn't seem to be such a big deal, right?
Well, and it plays out in life, right?
Yeah.
Because now we're on the playground, and he goes up to a kid and smacks him on the head, ha ha ha, like Despicable Me, and, you know, the Minions, and he's like, a minion. Well, the other kid doesn't understand that you're a minion, right? Like, and really, quite frankly, doesn't appreciate you smacking him across the head, you know? So the intention is not to hurt another child. The intention is like, oh, this is how I get people's attention. So I think what people, oftentimes we don't realize what we're learning. And even for us too, right? You watch a scary movie before you go to bed, and all of a sudden you're like looking, and the lights are flickering, and, you know, like, you're like, they're coming to get me. And it's not. I mean, so imagine us with a fully developed brain when you've got a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, and brains are not completely developed until mid-20s. So you've got these kids that are taking this information, compressing it, and then regurgitating it, and we get upset about it. And that's the kind of problem with the whole story, is that we can't really get upset when we subject them to the space of, and again, it's oftentimes unknowing, right? Like you said, we take for granted that Disney movies are appropriate, like, you know, and most people do. You know, his little friend said, we're going to SpongeBob. You want to go? We're going to SpongeBob, and his friend's 2 years old. Wow. And I was like, oh, no, we don't do SpongeBob in our house. Like, and not as a judgment, but just simply, again, it's one of those things that I'm not comfortable with SpongeBob. Yeah. I don't like it. So.
Well, once you raise your awareness, you know, you just made me think about something when you were saying that. See, once, you know, even now, if people are over or somebody puts on the TV, you know, I'll tell everybody, can you please mute the commercials, right? Like, first we're not even in the room, or we leave if it's something that's not mindful. But say they're watching HGTV. So I have older kids. We watch HGTV and Food Network, and there's a lot to learn. It's amazing what they've learned. Then the commercials come on, and there's commercials we never had when we were little about pharmaceuticals, which to me are like, I mean, very negative and violent and kind of scary in itself. You know, so it's kind of finding that balance, right? But when you talk about the Disney movies, I have a funny story. When Walt Disney made the movie, when he debuted the movie Snow White, and we are huge Disney fans. Like I said, we ingest it in a way that feels good to us. There's a lot of muting, and there's a lot of hiding. There's a lot of skipping or fast forwarding. So we do it in a way where I trust. I mean, they do that. You know, that I've empowered them with that ability. When he played Snow White, they did it at a big fancy theater with like big cushions and everything like that on the seats. And okay, so they had to change out all the cushion of the seats after the debut of this movie because so many children peed in their seats during Snow White.
Oh my gosh.
Because they were terrified.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you feel that way, Eric? Are you in that boat? What do you...
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, you just as parents, you just have to decide what feels best to us, the parents. And if it doesn't feel good to us, then it's probably not going to feel good for them either. So far in my son's life, he's 4.5 now. He's seen a total of 2 movies. We've taken him to see Big Hero 6, which turned out to be, I think, beyond his age level. And we also watched Frozen with it. So
I was horrified in both of those movies at certain scenes.
Right. There are scary parts in both of those movies.
Yeah, and there's a lot of adult topics.
There's a website. I have to get my husband to get it for me, but it's a website that actually, it's Common Sense.
Yeah, I've read it.
And it kind of tells, like, you know, what the age range, and so, like, if it's like a 6-year-old, I'm like, that's out of my ballpark or whatever, you know, but that's been helpful to us because we were going to see Big Hero 6 Big Hero 6, and I was like, something just kind of said to me, I don't think he's ready for it, because he's only 3 too, so.
You know, my kids didn't watch that stuff that young, and really a lot of the times it's because they didn't want to, you know, so it's like even if I offered it, they didn't want to. And you know, let's talk about that a little bit. So we've been really focused on sort of what media, but the thing is with the media that we choose that they can have, right? So we talk about limiting, right, media or toys or how long they should do things, right? How long should they be doing it for if we decide that there's something appropriate that they could do, right? And so for us, obviously in our family, it was just a little bit different because we make video games. It was challenging because first deciding what games were appropriate, right? Because a lot of them you can learn a lot from, you know. So you're learning like physics and timing and, you know, reflexes and, you know, many different things you have to use your mind for, but it's what they play with. But what was important is that we became mindful of using electronics, so we were able to teach them that. So I would say check in with your eyes, right? How do your eyes feel? Do your eyes feel tired? Do they feel strained in any way? You know, and I would tell them that these are a muscle, right? So something happens when they stare, right? And then I would empower them with their hands, right? You're using your hands like this for a long time, or you're going like this for a long time, or you're poking for a long time, right? You have muscles, right? And nerves. Like, how does your hand feel? And this is how I would talk to them when they were very little. And they would say, you know, oh, my hand feels tired, right? And I would say, that is perfect. I'm so glad you noticed. That's a perfect time to take a break. You know, maybe you want to run around the house or do 10 jumping jacks or just, you know, take your eyes away from the screen. So as we learned how important it was to become mindful, we were empowering them. So we don't have to be the ones to come in and say, it's been 10 minutes, it's time to get off, you must listen to us, right? Did you like my voice? I made that up. I don't really think I sound like that. Instead, we would say, hey, you know, you've been playing for like 25 minutes, you know, how do you feel? Let's do a body check-in. Things like that. And then they would tell us, you know, I realize I'm hungry, I'm ready for a snack. Oh, perfect. You've been playing for a while, maybe we'll take a break. So it's less authoritarian and it's more like partnering with them to find out how their bodies are. And I know that's hard to do, Heather, like with your, you know, even 4.5 is a little older, Eric, but with your son being 3, you know, he might be fine for 10 hours watching TV, right? But if you, right? So I mean, I'm not asking like a really young child, but at a really young age, you know, we did say, you know, oh, it's, you know, it's, we didn't even say the time. We just said, oh, that was a good show. Let's go color. Or it was more of like an attention redirect, things like that. But as they got older, we were trying to give them skills that they could use when we're not standing over them. Do you want to say?
Yeah, I think that that's a beautiful way to check in with your own body, and what you're teaching them is going back introspective, wise inside. I have wisdom over my body. I know that I'm not feeling well, you know, and you know, what I would add to that is the parent, be prepared that they say, no, I'm fine, I'm ready to go another 2 hours. And so, you know, it goes back to, if as a parent you're not comfortable with it, then at that point in time I would say, look, I'm comfortable with another hour, and you know, or how can we talk this out? And especially with the older kids, obviously, you know, you can talk them through it a little bit more. But I love that body check-in, because I don't even check in with my body when I've been on the computer for 6 hours, 7 hours, and I get up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in so much pain. Like, you know, I don't even do that for myself. So I'd love to be reminded of that and taught that at a young age.
Yeah.
So that as an adult, now I go, God, you know, I just kind of feel yucky. I'm going to get up and move.
Yeah.
You know, so
I think we all need that. So that's where I believe that we're kind of learning together, because we were never surrounded with this much technology when we were young and growing up too. So it opens the conversation to other parents to say, you know, listen, we're all kind of learning this, but let's together, you know, more democratically try to figure out how to integrate it into our lives. Because, Eric, like you said, the best thing you could do is not have a TV. It's true, but it's kind of, it's inevitable if you're calling it just screen time, because now there's so many other ways to, you know, devour screens. You know, it's not just the TV. So there's, you know, there's a little bit of a still trying to have to, you're going to have to still face that decision a little bit, like you were saying with the iPad, right?
Right, and I think that's where I struggle the most, is in setting limits.
Yeah.
I'm not so good with that. I don't want to be the overbearing, strict, authoritarian parent. At the same time, you know, I don't want my son to watch 4, 5, 6 hours of TV at a time. So at some stage there, I need to step in and say, okay, that's enough. Let's go do something else. Let's go outside. Let's do some drawing. And with my son, it's been a little tough, because most of the time when you pull him away from watching a run of Thomas the Train episodes, he can get a little bit upset.
Yes,
So,
and that's totally natural too. I mean, we as parents have to be very mindful about how we do it. So I've seen a lot of parents get nervous. They come from a place of fear. I have done this myself. You're freaking out like, oh my God, I'm a bad parent. They're still on the couch. What do? You turn it off while they're still watching it. Or parents will come in and say, that's enough. You've had it. You've been doing it all day. And the child feels berated for like just relaxing and enjoying themselves, you know. So timing game too, right? So I mean, I think they also need a lot of information transitionally. So if there's communication, I mean, I think I've always talked to my children like they're older, even if they didn't understand. I would warn them, right? Like I would say, all right, we're going to do one more show. After this show ends, we're going to color or play Play-Doh, or so you kind of set them up for the next coming thing. The parents that sort of just storm in and steal the remote or turn off the television while they're watching it, I mean, that would cause a rise out of me. Yesterday,
yeah, I think that's worked for us as well, is to sort of set them up. This is your last show.
Yeah.
When this show ends, we're going to be done. We're going to do something else.
Yeah, and I mean, you can tell them why. So this could bring up many different categories of parenting, but, you know, I think parents do a lot of lying. I've heard parents say, like, well, Mickey's going to sleep right now, and Mickey can't come out and play, and Mickey's not going to be on TV, you know, next. Or, you know, things like that. Like, there has to be a way that we can talk to them from a really honest place. And also, I had to learn, and, you know, me being a mindful language coach, how to say it without scaring them. So how do you teach somebody to make a mindful decision without scaring them? So I'll give you an example of that. Parents that used to say, if you watch too much TV, your eyes are going to fall out. Or if you sit too close to the TV, you're going to go blind. Okay, my kids, I don't talk like that. They've never heard me say stuff like that, because I understand the ramifications, how scary that is, right? Because they're very visual. I mean, they take you literally, right? The parents that say, get off the chair, you're going to fall and crack your head type of things, like I feel bad saying it now. I'm hoping they're not listening. Like, seriously. So I would have to really come up with something like, you know, it's not kind to our bodies to not give it breaks, and we really need to take care of ourselves, and there's a lot of stuff inside our bodies that you can't see, and it's all working like a beautiful computer system. I mean, I would just talk it to death. They'll be like, bye, Mom, I'm going to color. I had enough of this lecture. But
well, you know, I think also too, to your point, Eric, is like there's a part of you that says, as a parent, there's a part that says, you know, I feel bad. I don't want to, you know, be an authoritarian. And so if we can change that dialogue to, I don't really feel bad. You know, I know that there's other alternatives, blah, 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 whatever that self-talk is before we get in there. Because what happens, and what I know for sure, in a classroom of 50 kids, you cannot be ambivalent with what you're wanting. So that's how I learned, like, ambivalence is the worst thing on the planet for working with kids, because then they see wiggle room, right? Like that they see that you're not really sure, so they're going to decide for you because it's in their best interest, right, to make a decision. So what I've learned over time is that if I'm strong in what I'm doing and wanting, then I walk in and I go, hey, you know what? We got one more show and let's make it good. Like, this is going to be the most awesome show. Let's watch it. Oh, yeah. All right, all done. Let's go figure out what are we doing next, you know. And if I'm in that space, but when I go one show, and I'm guilty of it, I go one show. And I know I do that because he models that right back for me. One show. Like, so I know I do that, but when I'm clear on what I'm wanting, then he is clear on what my boundaries are, and we can co-create together, because I don't believe that it's a boundary for me and a boundary for you, and I determine what's right and you determine what's right. It's that we're working in synergy together in this family, right? And what feels good to me is important, and what feels good to you is important. And so oftentimes I'll say, okay, do you want one more show, or do you want two halves of a show or something like that, you know? And he's 3 and he goes, one show. Like, and so, you know, he's made that decision for himself, and then he knows that that's what the deal is. And of course, you know, the consistency behind it of, oh man, now I got to fix dinner. Okay, I'll give him one more show, like, which I have to done. Like,
I think we've all done that, right?
There's a reframe for me when I'm ready to approach my son and ask him, you know, this is the last show. It's time to end the TV watching. So the reframe for me is that it's an opportunity for both of us. It's an opportunity for me to practice setting the limit without being the authoritarian, strict parent, and it's an opportunity for him to learn to get through those disappointments. So what's worked for me in getting through those times is to set the limit and then just empathize and just sympathize. I know you're really enjoying watching the 10th episode of the Thomas the Train. I know it's disappointing. I know you want to keep watching. I know. I understand. But we got to move on. We got to do something else. So I look at it again as an opportunity for him to learn to get through those disappointments. Because we all have them in life.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I mean, I want to really give us a shout out and give us credit that we're even doing it, that we're even trying to honor them and come at them with this approach and treat them with this type of respect, because I can tell you it's not very common. Most parents are like, you know, this is it, and this are the rules, and, you know, like, this is how it is, you know, this is how it's going to be. So the fact that we're even coming together to discuss, you know, treating our kids with this level of respect is just amazing. I mean, it's really just a beautiful thing, and I'm really grateful to hear that you guys are doing that too. I will tell you that, just so that everybody knows, it's kind of a confession, but we have been much more relaxed on letting the kids make decisions in our house than I think most people. We do guide them, we gently guide them through it, but my kids have days where they just want to relax and watch stuff. They just want to, they're tired, or, you know, they're kind of like us, right? They have different moods, they have different days, and some days, I mean, some days they have played Play-Doh for like 3 days in a row. That's the first thing they do when they wake up in the morning, and they do it all day long, and I have to tell them to take breaks from Play-Doh, you know, like, you've been sitting a long time doing that, like, things like that, you know. So I do these gentle reminders rather than, you know, rules, I guess I would call it, right? But you can overindulge in anything, right? So, I mean, it's kind of teaching them these types of, it's like a lifestyle, right? But I really don't limit my kids on electronics. And so I taught them this saying, which they use a lot, and I taught them this pretty young, probably at like 4, where I would say, I gave them a term to call their body that their dad used to always say. And he used to get off his computer and say, oh, I'm fried. I can't do another thing. My head is like, right? He knew that he reached his limit. So I taught the girls to say, I'm fried. So they would play, you know, they've played Xbox, they've played Nintendo, they've done all sorts of stuff. They'll be on their iPads, and they'll just come up to me and say, I'm fried, what's next? Right? And because we haven't given them a lot of limits on what they do, they are so balanced in what they do. I mean, they're like, let's go ride scooters. Like, God, I had enough. I can't look at another screen the rest of today. They yell at us for being on technology. You know, Mom, put your phone down. Dad, get off your computer. Let's go, you know, let's go have a dance party. Things like that. Like, it's balanced because we don't limit it. So yesterday in Facebook on a group where somebody posted something, and I want to share it with you guys. The Artful Parent shared this image called Summertime Rules, and the title for it is called No Screen Time Until. And then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rules for what they have to do, like perform and jump through hoops before they can even have some form of screen time.
I saw that.
Okay. And so, oh my God, like 2,000 people liked it, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be the only person who's not a fan of this lifestyle or what they're doing, and I don't do this. But I said, can you imagine if, you know, my husband said that I had to like run 3 miles before I was allowed to check my email, or he gave me like rules of what I had to do before, you know, before dinner, or that I had to cook dinner before I went to the bathroom. Like, I just can't imagine living in a way where I would have to do that. So let me read you these, okay? And then I want to get your feeling on what you thought. So we definitely don't live like this. We don't put demands on them, and we don't tell them they have to jump through hoops before they can have screen time. So here's what they wrote. No screen time until you have read for 20 minutes. You have written your paragraph of the day and have finished your math problem of the day. You have checked your room to be sure it is clean, bed, clothes, and papers. You have played, built, crafted, or have done something else creative for 40 minutes. You have finished 1 chore. And in parentheses, it actually says, and it's done well enough that Mom and Dad will say that you did a great job. So let me just, I'm going to let both of you talk on this, and you get the general idea. I don't even know where to start with it, because we live in such a different reality than the parents who would use this or who feel that they need to use it. That just something else works for our family, you know. I have found sometimes that letting them play for a few minutes and align their energy and have a little time to themselves or something, they're thrilled to do something after that. After they've had a little time to determine they want to do something for themselves, then they do something, you know, with the family or for us or something like that. But I don't regulate and demand them that they do something before they go have a good time. So I don't use screen time as a reward. I don't say bribes, if you do this, you can do that. So that's just been our personal, you know, choice and decision. But I would love to get your feedback on what you guys think about that, and if you've felt that you had to integrate any type of rules, you know, in your home. Eric first? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
So yeah, I think you make a great point. And the idea of making screen time as the reward sort of gives a higher value to screen time overall, you know, and maybe that's giving the wrong message, that screen time is like, you know, the ultimate goal that you can work towards. We're a little bit the same way, Tina, in that we try to not, you know, set our son up with You know, you can have this after you do this. You know, first you do this, and then you can have this. Um, but there is, for me, the whole idea of setting limits on something. You know, when you set those limits, you know, what happens is we're sort of drawn to the thing that we're told we can't have, right? And so when you do that with TV or with anything else, you know, you sort of set it up as the forbidden fruit, as the reward, as the enticing forbidden thing.
We should forbid vegetables. Like
there
straight,
you go.
like straight from birth.
Exactly.
Just sorry, no broccoli for you. They'll be sneaking it at night, right?
Exactly. You know, Wayne Dyer tells a great story about his kids growing up and the fact that they had an M&M jar, like right in the front area of the house. They had an M&M jar, and anyone could freely take as many M&Ms as they liked. And this is, he tells a story with his kids when they were growing up. And he said he noticed that the kids who would come over to visit, who had parents who strictly limited the amount of candies that the kids could have, would stuff their pockets full of M&Ms every time they came over. So, right? So there's something to that. There's, you know, and so so TV, again, getting back to that, is the area for me where I've had the most struggle, because it is something that I want to limit. At the same time, you know, I want to have my son grow up to make his own decisions. So.
Right, and that's what I was saying yesterday. If we keep making all these decisions for them, how can we, you know, teach them, like Heather teaches, that they're wise inside and they can make some decisions for themselves. So I believe as they start to get older, we can continue to guide them, and you wouldn't just leave out M&Ms with a 1-year-old probably, because they would probably always be empty. But as they get older and they start being able to use their mind and make decisions and things like that, like you said, if you left it out, it'd be like, there's the M&M jar. It's always there. Big deal, right?
Right.
Heather, what are your thoughts?
Well, you know, on the whole little phrases of what to do, you know, I honestly believe the intention is there. The struggle I believe their intention is there for the greater good of our children, right? That's why they post it. So many people like it. The problem that we are seeing now is there is a raise in vibration, a raise in, some may say consciousness, some may say awareness, mindfulness, but there's a raise that parents are going through, that some of this stuff just doesn't feel good, and we don't have the tools and strategies to switch it up. We go, yeah, it doesn't feel good, but you know, this person says, well, maybe we should make them read for 20 minutes, and then, you know, at least they're getting a well-rounded. So I believe the intention's there, but to Eric's point and to yours is that it kind of puts it as this forbidden fruit, and that, again, screen time is the most important. And what I will say is we are blessed to live in San Diego in beautiful weather 24/7, and you know, people say to me all the time, what's it like? I'm like, it's 70 degrees every day and sunny. Like, you know, so
the next day it's still sunny.
Every day it's 70 degrees and sunny, but we are blessed with that we can go outside. And so my son naturally picks being outside. He likes to bike, he likes to scooter, he likes to run and play. We were at the park for 5 hours yesterday, literally. 5 hours, and I'm like, when is this kid gonna drop? Like, and he rode his bike the whole way home. So, you know, given choice, even this afternoon, you know, my husband was on a really important call, had to be quiet. I was getting prepared for this, had to be quiet. So his nanny had him, and I'm like, do you want to watch one show? One show? And he's like, nope, go ride bike. And I was like, oh, like, you know, so there was a moment in time where I was like, he picked riding a bike, and so we didn't want him to be out for too long away from home, but nonetheless that ended up happening. So his nanny ended up taking him on a bike ride earlier rather than later, because I didn't want her to be out for 4 hours roaming around. It's okay for us, but But on the same token, his idea was, I want to be riding my bike. That was way more important to him and way more fun to him than watching a show. So I think that we also, when we offer a lot of alternatives in that space of like, gosh, I'm really excited to go to the park, and trust me, I get it. It's hard to muster it up sometimes, like because sometimes there's no part of me that's excited about going to the park, and you know, that's my next book. You know, how to be on a playground and be successful at it. Like
you have like a little addition, a little subtitle that says, and not be on my phone checking email or doing something while they're at the park. Like,
well, you know, and it's one of those things where you know, again, it's a challenge for all of us, right, in this space, and yet there is, I think naturally, children want to be outside, they want to play. Not all of us have the space that we can do that if you're snowed in, like, yeah. I get it. But sometimes we just have to muster up, oh gosh, let's play Play-Doh, and be in the space of let's play Play-Doh.
Or build a fort, or do anything. I mean, they love it if we interact, right? I mean, they love it if we do something with them, or play with them, or let them lead, things like that. So we're more talking about, and with that picture, that graphic that I had from Facebook, it was more like, once you do something that pleases me, then you can do something that pleases you, sort of type of thing. Like, it was just, to me, it felt uncomfortable on so many levels. And it's not just limiting screen time, but it's please do something to make me feel good before you make a decision for yourself, or something like that. Like, even when they said make sure mom and dad say you did great at it, you know, so it has to even match their approval. So I mean, I think the hardest thing is we're trying so hard to talk about so many topics, and we can't stay on all day too. So I think maybe there can be like a you know, a stopping point, or maybe people can write any of the three of us for questions, and we can bring them up on air again. I think it just comes down to still figuring out what feels comfortable from us, and the limiting of playtime and electronics is because people don't think it's as important. You know, I've never heard anybody limit reading. I gotta tell you, my eyes get tired reading. I mean, I could get really sleepy from reading, but I don't limit my kids. I don't tell them when they should read, and they've been unschoolers. They've never been in school, and they sit down and pick up a book, and they'll sit down and finish it. I mean, you know, sometimes you get a good book, you know, they just want to finish the whole thing in one day and read the whole thing in one day. Like, what am I going to limit them and say you have 20 minutes to read and no more after that? Even if it's a good part, you have to stop. Like,
well, I think, again, coming back full circle is we are in a space and time where parents are looking for something more. We're looking for other ways, other alternatives, different shifts of paradigm, and we are stuck in this space of, you know, we have to punish, we have to reward, we have to set limits, we have to set guidelines.
All fear-based.
And all of the things that we have been taught for years and years and years. And yes, people say all the time, well, I was raised that way and I'm fine. Yes, but there is also a part where your own mom and dad said, God, you know, I don't think this feels so good. I wish I had another alternative, but they didn't, and so they did what they did. And so our job is to raise up that vibration and say, okay, look, this doesn't feel good to you. Here's some other alternatives. And that was my hope with getting the three of us together, because we all have different alternatives that some parent can say next time, gosh, you know, it doesn't feel good you watching TV. What did they say that they do? And our goal is to inspire each other to rise up and evolve as human beings, because, you know, the textbooks I learned from when I was in college on childcare and parenting were from 1950, and that was in 1995, you know, like, they were from 1950, and our world is not the same as 1950, and never will be. And never will be. So we have to raise up and rise that vibration, and also rise up to evolving into different people, and that's the whole goal of life, right? Like, we evolve and evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And helping each other, because, you know, like, so we're not saying that this is necessarily right or wrong, but I know for me it didn't feel good to me when I read it, and it didn't feel good to how we live our life in our family. But I'm, you know, it's just it's about helping each other, kind of having compassion for the fact that we're all going through this, and we all need to help each other find what works, right?
Yes.
So like you said, coming together, and maybe something they hear will resonate or make them think twice. And so the whole purpose of any of these events is to raise awareness, not to determine.
To bring the dads into it too. It's not all about the moms, which is why I love One Awesome Dad, because
yeah, it's really cool. It's really super cool, and it's a wonderful, different perspective, and I think we definitely need to do this again for sure. Do you guys have anything else you want to add, Eric?
Yeah, speaking to some of the points Heather just brought up, I really think we are at more or less the forefront now of a real paradigm shift in a lot of areas. I think with the internet overall is helping to just raise our consciousness in many areas. But in regards to parenting, I know that a lot of the books now on positive parenting, I think Alfie Kohn's book is going on a couple of decades old, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But we're still more or less at the forefront, like I say, of a real shift in thinking in terms of no spanking, no punishing, no shaming, no yelling, no screaming. I mean, this is all entirely new stuff. So we're still figuring this out as we go along. At the same time, I think it's really exciting because I think that the next generation of kids, that as the parents get it, as the kids get it, I think it's an exciting time for the kids and for the parents.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we are all pioneers, and we have to sort of hold each other's hands through it. It's not about who's right or wrong or who's doing good or bad. It's like, oh, you're doing that? Oh, I guess I could try to figure out something in my family that might work for us. Like, listen to them, they're doing that. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do the same thing, but for me, us deciding that we created core values for our family, and we created a vision for our family, and all of those things were based in nonviolence, and all of those things were based on coming from love versus fear. So if we can just hold that as our main vision for what this type of parenting is, then we can always come back to that foundation, and ask ourselves, what would be the more peaceful way to handle the same thing that everyone's experiencing? Because we all go through it. We all have the decisions to make and the emotions. I'm just going to tell you a really quick joke about electronics. When my kids were little, they were probably 1 and 3 years old, we moved into a big new $1 million house. And we had wiring in the kitchen for, cable, right? But we purposely didn't put a TV up because we were all like, oh, no TV in the kitchen. And, okay, maybe we'll have a TV, but we're not going to have one in the kitchen because we're going to, like, sit down and eat. And I don't know why I keep going into this voice. This is really weird. But we were just, oh, my God, we were like, this is how it's going to be. And there was one moment standing in the kitchen where it was like 10 minutes till Costco was closing, and I said to my husband, go now. You get a TV now. You're getting a TV for the kitchen. Like, literally, he ran out and got a TV. And I'm telling you, family members came over, and, family members want to hold you to your word. Like, well, I thought you said that you did this. And I had family members that would say, what? You said no TV in the kitchen. And we're like, I reserve the right to change my mind at any moment. There was now a TV in the kitchen. And sometimes when you sit there with a child who wanted to eat for hours, we watched hours of Baby Einstein or Sesame Street or something. Like, we were still mindful about what we consumed, but once in a while I watched, somebody cooking so I could learn to cook something for my family. Like, things like that. So I mean, it could change quickly, right? We can change our minds all the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you guys, this has been super, super, super fun. I want to just say that I really, really enjoyed it. I love getting your input. I love hearing, the different perspectives and what everyone does in their family. And I look forward to doing this with you again on many different topics.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for setting this up and for having us all together. And I'll tell you, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's going to help a lot of people, because what I know for sure, working with thousands of parents, every parent wants the best for their child. It may not look like it, they might not act like it, but deep in their heart, they want the best for their child. Nobody comes into this planet saying, I can't wait to ruin this child, like I can't wait to destroy this child. They don't do it. And it took me a long time to accept that, because I was involved with a lot of people that did really not good things with their children, quote unquote. And yet I had to find that heart space, because when we get in that heart space together, we rise up as a community and as people, and it changes the world collectively. So I think we're on our way.
Yay! I'm so happy.
A better world starts with the way that we are raising our children. And really honored to have spent the last hour speaking with both of you, and I hope we can do it again.
Yay!
Thank you. You guys too. Thank you so much. I'm really, really grateful. I will talk to you both soon.
Mwah! Thank you.
Okay,
Great. Talk to you soon.
I also want to tell anyone that's listening is that I will have actually up on our podcast page at pranaboost.com, I will have links to Heather's website and her work, and Eric's website and his work, and Facebook pages and stuff, so we can all come together on this and continue the discussion. Okay, thank you. Namaste.
Yay! Yay! Mwah! Mwah!
Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.